in being able to help us as a community partner, but also hospitals and healthcare systems around the country struggle with drug shortages, which are now a reality, I think just speaks volumes to the impact DR has.
We've got the OnePlus 9 Pro, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, this display is just out of this world.
It's insane. It's got 65 watts of charging power.
The 9 series is next level.
There's a fire in my heart, yeah, it burns for the game we play. Now I rise and take my turn to be born again for this day. I know they're waiting for me now to win it all. I hear my name cried in the crowd. They call, fighting through all of the pain, I'll never fall. Risking everything I have to stand up tall. Now my flames burn bright and my head's held high. Oh, can't knock me down, no, my fears are buried down tonight. And I dry my eyes 'cause I'm a fighter. There is only one way I can survive. Fighting through all of the pain, the best will rise. Now my flames burn bright and my head's held high. Oh, can't knock me down, no, my fears are buried down tonight. And I dry my eyes 'cause I'm a fighter, won't ever back down 'cause I'm breathing fire. Oh, yeah, I'm breathing fire. Oh, no, I'm breathing fire. I'm breathing fire. Now I'm breathing fire. Now I'm
PUBG Mobile World Invitational is powered by Gamers Without Borders and is brought to you by OnePlus, the official smartphone provider, Nemo TV, the official streaming platform, and STC, the official playout sponsor. We are now 2 matches deep into our second day here at the PMWI for the East Conference, and we've had another team come to the lights of receiving a delicious chicken dinner. And this team particularly, when esports have been able to step up so well today, as they've been able to get themselves 20-plus points in back-to-back matches. And we'll see where it puts them in the overall leaderboard in a few moments. But I'm Jason Kaplan, and I got to bring in my analysts yet again to break this one down. We have Blank and Bleh, so we're going to hop into our match rankings pretty much right off the bat. and start to break down how many points all the teams did get. I do love seeing your guys' faces on camera, but I love seeing the overall the leaderboards more because I just get too distracted. I have to look at the camera. I can't look at the monitor the whole time.
Okay. I thought you were going to say get distracted how good looking we are, Jason, but all right, fine. All right, so match rankings. A1 though, it feels like today could, I don't want to jinx it, but could be the day of South Asian teams, right? I8 really stepping it up as well, the Pakistani team. They had a very quiet day yesterday, but A1 Esports have been consistently good. Like you said, Jason, 20 points in game 1, coming in second place in a very close fight against Zeus Esports, and now finally getting a very well-deserved chicken dinner. Volus Esports, though, it looks like that the 0 points they got in game number 1 of the day, well, it felt like a little bit of an outlier, because it looks like normal services have resumed for the Thai team.
I would say so, 100% for Valdez Esports, 13 points here. It's not too bad. It's kind of how we expected Sandhawk to go, where we were talking about at the beginning of the day that Sandhawk is kind of just that like even Stevens map. They want to lose as little points as possible here, but they don't also want to learn the most amounts possible. That's not the aim of the game, especially with where they're playing. I did like that they rotated down from the north of Paradise Resort to the south side. You know, they just want to take a little bit more control. They realized teams were pushing them a lot more in our angle, so I respect that big time. Na'Vi with 11th place there. Good job to Kitsune as well, making his way through those last bits. But I remember looking at this top side, what player said, A1 and I8 bringing it through massive. I think A1 just back-to-back good games. It is just excellent to see, and again with such a volatile leaderboard, these kind of performances is really what's going to shoot you to the top.
I believe they've gotten 41 points today, and considering like the difference between like second and like 8th place was just like 10 points if I can't even get close to remember correctly, they could easily see themselves into top position, which we'll check in with a little bit of time. But in typical style when it comes to PUBG Mobile, you win a chicken dinner and the next match you get 0 points. Zeus Esports, a fat goose egg at the end. It's unfortunate, but it seems to happen more often than not here, Blah.
Yeah, it does. But again, look, Sandhawk is a map where they're usually very uncomfortable on. I'm not too surprised that. I mean, of course, I would have liked them to see get a few more points, at least a few kill points here. But not too surprised. I feel like Erangel is where they're going to be getting the chunk of the points in this tournament. Just want to touch about Nasser Esports, though. They do get 5 kill points there, but I feel like they could have played a little bit better right now. I do believe they're still sitting at the bottom of the overall rankings, and I feel like there were a couple of fights where Max pointed out as well, where like you need to take these fights. You just can't wait for them to come to you, and when opportunity presents itself, you grab onto them. They didn't do that, and I hope they really kind of change that mentality. But here we have the overall rankings, Jason.
Oh damn! A1 Esports up 8 placings into 5th place at 57 points, and Valdez still maintaining a big lead here, blank in 1st place.
Yeah, honestly, this is really, really, really good here from A1. Obviously, the Bangladesh team has just blown out the park. A total of 8 placings reached here. And we've got to remember that 41 points accrued. It was 5th and 6th place from yesterday with 38 points total. So they're already ahead of 5th and 6th, just over 2 games. So we're starting with something that we saw from Valdez yesterday. So excellent stuff from A1. Valdez, though, with such a huge, massive, gigantic lead that they had from yesterday, they're still just mountains ahead of everybody else so far, but Geek Fam just about keeping up.
Humongous, some people might even say there, blank. But
yes, humongous.
Bigatron still, I wouldn't say really struggling, because if you look at the 2nd to the 8th place, as you can clearly see over here, it's like 15 points. That's nothing. Like one good game from any of the teams from the 2nd to the 8th position, they can easily catapult themselves to the 2nd position, just trailing behind Valdez. Second half of the table, though, I8, they've had a bit of a resurgence past couple of games. They came in 6th in the first game, and then they were able to, of course, come in 2nd with a high fragging game where they got 9 kills, the most in the server, being in the 13th position. But this is a team who, they impressed me when they were playing for the Stalwart org just a couple of months back in PMPL South Asia, and the fact that they had such a quiet start was a bit of a surprise for me yesterday. And I do really hope they were able to kind of mount a comeback and try and crack the top 8. But I guess it's the same story that could be said of Na'Vi as well, Blank.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Na'Vi, they're trying to get towards that top side. I think they're doing a decent job. It feels like they're much more controlled. But again, it is difficult to crack that top 8 egg. It's kind of an egg made out of titanium at the moment, especially in that number 1 first place. South Korea, unfortunately, taking a fall there, 6 points down for DS Gaming. Slightly unfortunate. I would like to see a little bit more out of DS. I liked what I saw yesterday.
Well, it seems like A1 has found the golden egg here, cracked open with 3 yolks inside as they get themselves into the front page. Take a closer look, though, at their match 1 stats versus match 2 and kind of ponder. a different way to get further into the game. Obviously, Sandhawk things will be a little bit different as we look at, obviously, Erangel up against the Sandhawk match. But still, if they can maintain points like this, like that's what it's all about, right? It doesn't matter how you win a match necessarily, as long as you're getting those points and you're doing it consistently. And the Bangladesh team of A1 have been able to do so far today.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Erangel to Sandhawk as well, it's lovely to see 13 knockouts here on Erangel because they're just really plowing through on that map and making it happen. So they definitely deserve that win there. And then also you come through, well, not the win, the second place, but then you come through onto the second game on Sandhawk where they do take it away. They've got 6 kills, 3 knockouts, which leads me to believe there's a lot of third party going on. Again, a great understanding of Sandhawk, how to play it. So it feels like they've got their head screwed on today.
Yeah, they do indeed. And even the individuals, right? You look at the second map, it wasn't just one player popping off, right? Like you have Dante, obviously, someone who can really kind of hold his own and get those crucial kills, with Sinister and Jax with 5 kills apiece. And then we, of course, had Nineboy. While he only had 3 kills, so far he has he had over 1,000 points of damage. So it wasn't just 1 or 2 players popping off. They played this one to perfection. Very reminiscent of how Valdes played the entirety of day 1. So I hope to see A1 continue this trend here and kind of fly the Bangladeshi flag and be the South Asian representatives in the top 5, where right now we're just purely dominated by the Southeast Asian teams.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go the other way. I hope they don't continue this trend because I want to see every team catching up. Not because I don't like them. I do like them. But I want to see every team performing well. I want to see things be extremely close to the very end to see who takes home $250,000 for the charity of their choice at the very end of this event, because this is, of course, all about charity. And one of those teams who have been able to step up, at least in this last match, is going to be I8. We're going to take a closer look at them and compare their matches today versus their matches overall in the event so far, and kind of see that they've had this nice upward trend. But the thing is, can they continue to have this upward trend? Can they continue to perform like this when Valdes, I'm assuming, will start to come back online later today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for IA as well, like the thing with this team is that they're doing very well today, which is nice. But honestly, for IA, it's a case where yesterday things weren't terrible for them. If we look at it that way. I mean, terrible is probably actually the apt word to use them. 14th, 13th, 8th, 10th place, and a 13th place also. It's a big step up, honestly, for IA.
I feel like for IA, the only problem I see is the fact of how predictable they are, especially in Erangel, right? And considering map number 3 is going to be Erangel coming up here, like there are a few things constant in life apart from death and taxes. It's IA heading towards that military island, no matter what happens, even the plane path's not in that way. And then they slowly make their way up from the Western Bridge. And I feel like since they take a lot of time, even though they're very capable of taking fights, as you can clearly see in map number 2 we saw here today, because of how late they usually enter the circle, they kind of fall apart. They do get the kills, but they're not able to get his placement points. So I don't know if they're going to switch things up a little bit, but I feel like the predictability for I8 could be their biggest weakness, at least on the map of Erangel.
Well, weaknesses is something we're not going to talk about right now. What we are going to be talking about is what you guys can win at home, right? We always say the players trying to win money for charity, but you guys at home, you want to win a little bit of something, right? There actually is some things you can win, some free permanent outfits for some live milestone rewards. So make sure you tell all your friends, tune into the stream. You can check in on the Esports Center and watch in the game. You can watch wherever you want to watch. And hopefully we hit those milestones to get you guys some lovely things at home to use for all of time. But you two, you need to get out of here. The third match is ready to go. We got our commentators back in. Hopefully they brought my water and they didn't have tomatoes in my salad this time. It's our waiters with Maxman and Imperium to bring you all the action here in match number 3.
Thank you very much, Jason. Hey, you know what? Last time I didn't get it. I'm not gonna lie. Imperium had to explain me. He had to explain to me. Oh, he got... Oh, wow. Good service. That's top 10.
Yeah, thank you.
Top tier service. Good job, Imperium. Thank you so much. But yeah, ready for our third game of the day this time around, Imperium. We're going to go straight back towards Erangel. We saw a great rise up from the likes of A1, but there are other teams that would like to see potentially try and chain things up a little bit. One of those in my eyes is going to be Myth. Sure, going for passive rotations is great, but we need to see this team try and take fights eventually.
Yeah, definitely. Myths need to really start to be aggressive a lot more and be controlling across their area. Same could be said for Blacklist International, because it was noted well on the analyst desk that they're a team that are relying quite heavily on placement points, and it feels like they're playing to survive rather than playing to win. And that can work when you go unnoticed in the first day, maybe 2 of a tournament or finals. But as teams start to look back on VODs and start to adapt themselves, there's technically a lot less area within a game where you can really control unless you start to make some noise and control that area yourself. You're not really going to be given as much free real estate or free space to survive until the late stages of the game, and it speaks for itself because in today's games so far they've only gotten 1 placement point. They've gotten 6 kills but only 1 placement point. So Blacklist, I'd like to see a bit more adaptability from them.
Okay, already I want to get this out of the way. Na'Vi is not good. Northern George, they're going straight on top of IA, and that is something that was mentioned earlier, right? IA, they're always going to go on top of military base. That's what Blair said on the desk, and that is true. And even if Na'Vi is there, they're going to give it their fair shot. They're going to fight for it. This is their drop location, and they're not going to give it for anything in the world. Because of the very southern plane pass, Na'Vi had to go for a secondary drop location. Northern George was out of the question, so that's a potential early skirmish that could be happening unless, and I would see IA, they're very high up north. They could very easily pick up a card that spawns up north on military and leave, but is that really what they're going to do then, IA? I'm not 100% certain about that.
Like, I can see IA winning this one because they have all 4 players together now, of course.
Experience.
You know, and experience and confidence at the moment, right? They've had 2 pretty solid games, especially this last game. A1 trying to catch out the Xavier player inside the vehicle. Sinister is going to switch on over to the M16. Come on, the final shots. Come on. Oh, he's able to just about get away with that one.
Got away was murder almost. Well, not quite. Didn't get any knots, but made it out. That is never worth it, Imperium. If you do not get the knock and trying to drive over someone in the first 10-15 seconds, just leave, because you got a teammate of the opponent that's just going to be coming up. He's got himself a weapon and he is going to be taking you down. Though we are seeing in the kill feed currently, Valda's taking a fight, and seemed like Valda's unfortunately had the short end of the stick as Blacklist International did pick themselves up. I believe it was 2 kills. It is indeed 2 kills coming their way, and they're instantly going to be moving out. Unfortunately, it was not a great amount of loot, as we did see. Claire here has himself a crossbow, so need to keep on going on that looting stage.
Phase 1 popped up on the side note, and it's very central on the map, and you can see that with that plane path being quite heavily down south. That's part of the reason why we saw a couple of early skirmishes in terms of trying to get vehicles, or Valdez losing a player, trying to do a little bit of split looting to grab an early gun, etc. But as we get a little bit more into the game, teams should settle themselves somewhat. And with such a central phase 1, there's a lot of areas for you to really control. You've got obviously Potato Hill you could go if you're the likes of Nasser or maybe Zeus. You can hold on to Headshot Hills if you're possibly Geek Fam. You can hold on to obviously Pachinki Hill for the Xavier, and A1 already close to one of the Pachinki Hills on their looting phase. So a lot of ground to be covered as teams continue to loot up.
The one team that's already done loot, and that's IA. Going back on that situation, they're leaving actually. Sent UZM actually high up north. He's going to be maybe scouting, getting more intel. Na'Vi are going to be wrapping around, sending Meku over to the west, and 3 other players of the team over to the eastern side. Are they deciding to collapse on top of IA? If that's the case, that is weird. They would send Meku alone. Normally you would go for 2-2, 2 to the left, 2 to the right, but they're not making that happen just yet, which I'm surprised by. We'll see how that's going to be unfolding in the future.
Yeah, that's interesting that Na'Vi dropped kind of onto military base, but haven't really looked to engage with. I just respecting the fact that another team is there and knowing that they've yet to really kickstart their PMWI in a dramatic, strong result-based fashion. Because at the end of the day, as much as they got a decent amount of points in the last game, it was just left with Kitsune on his own to survive up until that point in the game. Bleb did make a good point about I8, but one thing that I've really been impressed with I8 on the drop in military base is how quick they have been to rotate onto the mainland with that drop spot. To be honest, because a lot of teams that drop in military island, they do tend to be too slow, and that puts them in a position where they aren't getting information and they might get caught out inside phase 2, phase 3. We haven't really seen that with I8 bar go too deep into the circle on the early rotation.
This is also one of the few circles in Pyram where there's a big portion of military actually inside of it, so you can take it a little bit slower, I would say. True. But I think that the point you're also bringing up here is that normally you would see teams gatekeep, which we haven't seen happening too much actually on the bridges, if it's both the east or the west bridge. But I'm seeing a little bit of a change of pace. BTR are staying very close to the eastern bridge, and Reject are rotating towards the western bridge. I don't know if they intend to set up shop there and actually hold on to the bridge itself, but it does seem like there's a bigger chance this time around of actually having teams gatekeeping, especially I think because of the plane path being so southern, that chance of a gatekeeping happening on top of the bridge has increased significantly.
DRS disengaging away from Yasnaya very early on in this game is putting them much closer to the center of this phase 1. And I like that a lot. It's going to allow them to get more information and possibly put a bit of pressure onto Zeus. Yala and DS Gaming are starting to pick up steam on their rotation and get close to each other. I talked about DRS rotating early. Well, they sent the scout up into Potato Hill with Zeus already being there. They lose a player, but that could be a worthwhile loss, a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, where DRS will know for a fact that there's a full squad on top of the hill.
Not going to be a full squad this time around. It's going to be the Saudi Arabian team of Yala, and still powerful on his 2 feet. I'll take the full assault onto the South Korean team. But talking about the South Korean team, they're going to be sending the cavalry forward. Das Sports are ready to join. Just been definitely doing strides for the team in general. Sadin going to be taking a one-on-one on the lower section of the building versus Powerful. The Missile trying to hold on to the staircase too. Sadin, you have to join right now. Powerful is doing a little bit of whatever he wants. Now he's just locked on down. Great off angle, by the way, you have to see on top of that ceiling from Missile. And actually able to get himself the kill. Yala Esports still down to 1 player, do you believe? And he's just going to be leaving the scene as nothing happened in the first place.
Yeah, a bit of a shame from Yala. Goodbye DS Gaming. They just rotated and reacted a little bit quicker to that one, and now that leaves Jammers left on his own. Probably shouldn't be that way, Yala. I get that you kind of somewhat split drop, but when you're talking about rotating in on phase 1, either do it as a full squad or at least only send 1 player scouting a compound and see what happens after that. You see the Xavier punishing Nasser Esports around the school apartments region. Like, look at that split from Nasser. Like, is that really needed this early in the game? Of course it's early in the game, so it's possible, but when you're talking about this phase 1 and, you know, school and apartments being a core rotational area for a few of these teams, that heavy split is a reason why they're getting called out.
If you want to go for a split around school apartment, I would say it's a 2-2 split. You have 2 players in school, 2 players in apartment. You have vehicles ready to rotate in case a team comes nearby. And that's how you should play it. Here's just way too thin. And it doesn't help them out very clearly. Like, 2 players already out. Moomin and Nabo still up and ready to go. And trying to rotate back on top of each other is also going to be extremely complicated. And Xavier is a team that has been looking more and more confident as time been going on in Imperium, I would say. That they are not scared to take these fights. And that's a mentality that NASA should try and embody, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to come up just yet.
Yeah, the Xavier currently 6th overall in the standings. They're only 1 point behind A1 Esports, but they are on equal points to BTR. With these kill points so far in the game, it'll help them jumping ahead of a couple of teams if they can continue on into the late game. Phase 2 popped up, by the way, and is centralized once again. So strong, good, positive circles for this 3rd game of the day. Your evilness is not getting in control of these circles of this game number 3, Max.
Lucky rubber ducky. NASA, as they continuously get pushed upon by the Xavier. Down to now 2/3 HP, still got his own utility to slow things down, but now he's definitely giving the information over. And that's the thing, right? If there's no car available on the other side for Nabo, how he's going to join up on Moomin? I mean, I would say just don't at this point. You want to try and just snake your way and you're relatively good in the circle. Just remain as a one-man because you know that there's no way the Moomin unfortunately makes it out alive. He's on the right side, you got to be careful. Switching over to a smoke, you're not going to kill them with a smoke, man. Go over to the M249. Now that's a weapon you're going to do some damage with. But unfortunately, will only get himself a 1 knock in a process. And now maybe time for Nabu. Man, actually, that's a lot more knocks than I expected coming up from Moomin. Maybe, if Nabu was there, that could have went their way.
Can he still pull something?
No way.
There
oh, no.
You go, in through the doorway. He's going to find one, but of course, his position has now been compromised. So, unfortunately, as much as it was a knock, was that really worth it? No, I don't think it was now, but he's not going to give up, though. He lays down the smoke. He's going to push on forward. I respect this from Nabo. No fear, just fight. You got nothing to lose.
Sure, that nade. You know exactly what window is going to be peeking out from. There you go, pre-fire it. That's what we want from Nabo. Goes for the spray once more. 1 more bullet is all you need. He's going to get a little bit further and wider. Now he's going to be switching over believe to overturn the M16. The one taps is not really what he needs, and one nade inside that smoke. There's no escape. No. That is the play. That is the play you need, and Nabo can't do anything against it. As the Xavier, that's 4 kills to their name, and once again, unlucky rubber ducky for Nasta as they are out in 16th.
Believe it or not, Valdez were actually getting a couple of shots onto Nabo. That's why he had to prone down in that moment, and he couldn't push forward. I'm not saying he would have done much more, but that is part of the reason why he was slowed down, and that nade was so crucial to Xavier getting that final kill. Fnatic Zombies now rotated across the eastern bridge. I8 are still in Military Island, and Navi are on that western bridge, but Myths are in a similar pathline. You can see that it has slowed them down a little bit, but at the end of the day, the fact that they are across the bridge into that mainland is very positive for Navi moving on into phase 3.
What are you going to say? It's very poggers. I'm so used to you saying that now. It's like, it's part of your dialect now, Imperium. But no, positive. Yes, also. I agree. I mean, you know what? Fair. I will take the blame. I showed you Reddit, and unfortunately, I should have never done that. No other teams. Navi's going to be pushing up, picking up a few kills in the way. Myth, they're not a team that I would really say are renowned for gatekeeping and trying to control positions, right? They play edge, they play passive, and once they get to the late game, that's where they start to be a little bit more active and trying to actually take more control of their destiny. Here, they're trying to defend it versus Na'Vi. Na'Vi are a team that if they see someone, they shoot everything that moves, so there's no way that Myth are going to avoid that fight. One player goes down, and Myth should go back to a more passive nature and try and avoid the fight. But there's so much breathing space. If it goes over to the west, though, where Geek Fam is, that will be pretty tricky for a big portion of the lobby, which it somewhat happens on top of the northern side of Pachinki. The amount of compounds has been cut down significantly this time.
Never mind the fact that we could see 2 or 3 teams commit themselves to the Pachinki city, or at least the edge of it. Geek are in a fantastic spot to have the compound that's outside of Pachinki, but Church is still open for the taking. The Xavier reacting, DRS reacting, Zeus staying up on top of Potato Hill. This is where things start to get pretty wild as Myth are making their way up to the south of Pachinki Hill.
I think that's a great spot. I think it is actually the best spot, Imperial, very clearly. The amount of information you're going to get is huge, even though it's not going to be a long-term option unless you have some of the luckiest circle shifts coming your way, then maybe. And because it's so valuable, of course teams are going to be dropping on that. Of course teams are going to contest it away. And that's going to be the one in the name of Reject. Going to try and smoke and use the utility to kind of dissipate away the team of Myth, but Myth still want to give it a fair shot. Though it is a compound that's big enough where you could share it. Well, not even a compound, a hill that's big enough for you to share it. Send one team to the north, and you should be fine. But we had one great utility, one great nade from Faroki. Divine now stuck inside of that shack. Duello wrapping around. Is he going to go for an off angle from down below? If he does, Myth, without utility, are in so much trouble.
Lapis in the back line, going to be providing a little bit of support. Another one comes in as well. Good play by Reject. They're getting together, and that's the most important thing, right? They've only lost Sarah, so Duello, Lapis, Divine going to be working together quite nicely in towards the Pachinki Hill area. A1 are in a great spot inside the circle, and the compound that's outside of the field of Pachinki. BTR have gone for the edge of Pachinki situation, and Myth are getting third party, and they are out of here.
Yeah, but look, that's exactly what I said. You could very easily share Pachinki Hills. There's 2 little hilltops. There's a little bit of a valley in between them. Myth, instantly, if they saw the Reject were coming, do not stop your car. Do not remain on that hilltop. Just get back into them and go for the other one. Do not take the fight if you don't really have to, because you're not even installed in those buildings. You're not ready to take the fight.
Oh, I8, you're committing to it this late into the circle rotating in? That is ballsy, but it could work out.
It could. I mean, if they go for the western side, which it seems like that's what they're going to be doing, you're going to have not only great oversight of Na'Vi and also Reject potentially pushing down, but you're not going to really mix up with a lot of the teams. But I'm surprised. A lot of teams are committing. We've got the Xavier, DS Gaming, BTR, and also I8. And we might have more about to come very soon in the names of maybe Reject or Na'Vi that seems like they're actually pushing on top of each another.
Fair play to I8. It worked out because one of their players got knocked out, but Crypto instantly slapped back with a counter knock. Both teams are going to get the revive up, and it was risky, but it's going to work out as Matic with the UMP FPP mode gets a knock onto Reject.
When you're going into smoke is the best mode to go into. Go into the FBP and also makes your nade throws a little bit easier to play with. Reject understanding that this is not a fight they can take. They lost Sarah earlier, they lose another player. Now Divine and Lapis will make the most out of the information they gathered and hopefully use it to their win condition. Moving out, not gonna lie, I did not think Na'Vi would go for that one, but it seemed like they knew the circle was not going to go their way, so they wanted to create more breathing space, which is exactly what they did. But this circle is horrendous for Na'Vi, as they got to have to wrap around Pachinki itself, which is not an easy feat to achieve.
But it's more horrendous for the teams that committed to Pachinki, because now they're on the south edge of the circle, clustered together, afraid to move, not sure what's safe, not sure what's clear, and a good 75% of the circle has like 2 or 3 teams in it, right? So there's a lot of space for Na'Vi to enter into.
It's not a lot of compounds, so you need to know the terrain like the back of your hand. A1 spotted out by Fnatic Zombies. As Fnatic Zombies have really turned a new leaf, I would say. They do not give a damn. They will take fights if they really have to, and this is exactly what they did. A1 will be taken out of the lobby in 14th place this will be, and 13 teams still up and ready to go. But all the teams are now committed inside Pachinki. I mean, especially thinking at IA, you are locked in between all the teams on the northern side of Pachinki, and you're also locked by the blue zone, just literally but slowly creeping in your direction. What is the plan for I8 to move out of that position? Because that is not an easy rotation for them to pull off.
Let's hope for the best. Try and get as much information as possible. Blacklist International, they're in the best spot. Yeah, they don't get that much information from their current compound in terms of Pachinki, but it doesn't matter because they're in a very central position. And they don't have to, because all the teams that are in Pachinki are going to take each other out. They only have to focus on Valdez and DRS to the north and the right. The second that they control them, they do have a good 56% control of the circle.
I think that's definitely, you hit the nail on the head. They just are going to be controlling so much, but they're going to be playing in the compound. And as you said, there's going to be a lack of information that might hurt a little bit for them. Though BTR, they're in a somewhat similar position as to where I8 were, and they're going to be right on top of each other. They have to take the fight, and these fights like this, unfortunately, means that not many players will actually come out on top. It's a little bit all over the place. Liquid taking a severe beating, but not enough to actually put him down onto his knees in submission, so he will be able to pull off that first aid. He's still got 1 to go after this one. He's got to try and end up that fight relatively soon. Other teams, I've seen the fight happen, and they're using this as an opportunity to move away. Xavier hearing the shots are like, we don't want to get involved. We're leaving, and we're going straight towards the central part of the circle.
Same with DS. DS are in a similar situation. They're more looking towards the roadside. Geek Fam, they've reacted to these circles really well, moving on to Church. Reject Scarlet go down. We're left with 12 teams. Valdez was be the one to clean them up. Let's not forget about Zeus. They held on to Potato Hill. They've come down Potato Hill. They now hold on to one building as a duo outside Pachinki Field, and then they have the other 2 just a little bit more up towards the northeastern edge of the circle. They are in a really good spot to react to Phase 5.
Currently, there's one team that's overseeing a lot of what's happening in Pachinki, and that is Geek Fam. They are executing it really well in that position. They're having 2 players on the northern side, keeping intel on, for example, where Na'Vi are standing, or even potentially where the likes of Blacklist International currently stand, while still having 2 players onto the southern side, one of those being Damrude, and keeping intel on what's happening inside Pachinki itself. But we're not going to be ending in Pachinki, so it doesn't really matter all that much. It goes right in favor of Blacklist International, but this circle is really hard to play, and the reason why, Imperium, it's a slope, and slopes aren't fun to play around, especially later on down the line.
Now, Na'Vi can do something with this, but I actually don't like the fact that they're committing so deep so early in this circle, especially as only a duo. Very risky. They're spreading themselves quite thin. Geek Fam have control in the south, but looking back into Pachinki, you said it shifted away. BTR, I8, DS, and the Xavier, they have it all to do.
Great shot from Zaxi here, going to get himself a knock. Crypto also gets taken down by a nade. Luxy down below. They're picking him up 1 by 1. The rest of IA are just trying to leave the scene unscathed, but easier said than done. Blade, UZM, also, if they move away from BTR, that's great, but you're also going to be pushing away towards the Xavier, and they got a 4-man squad ready to take you down at any time. That's going to be the real attempt for them. And as I say it, UZM picked up. It's going to be actually Geek Fam. The team that was overlooking, as I said earlier, are still going to be having some hands-down influence on what's happening in this compound. Big smoke road unfolding from the South Korean team of DS Gaming, going straight towards Saudi Arabian team of Yalla Esports. Only Jamaz, actually. He's not even a team, it's just a 1-man player. And he's going to be inside of that. And and actually able to peek up last second. Now the information has been given over. One nade, that's all you really need. It's so easy to nade, but with the smoke in hand, it's making it so hard to play around. The Snake, he's got himself the angle too. Jamaz is just ruining everything for DS Gaming.
Peekaboo, I see you. Jamaz steps up and goes, haha, I'm here. Just like a jack in the box.
Oh, Satan. There you go. They know where Satan is. They can see his health bar through the smoke. So if they want to do a nade a little bit more to the left, and you instantly take Jamaz down. That could be their course of action they're going to be going for. But Jamaz has just been such a pain. Niala Esports are maybe going to able to pick themselves up 4 kills out of nowhere. Jamaz has been here as a one-man army for the longest time. He's still got a player behind him. Get rid of Satan.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
I was going to say, finish that kill.
Okay, Jamaz maybe thinking going back inside. Yeah, get hidden. I think you heard that nade. But now, Xavier still going to be getting their hands down and dirty inside this fight.
Oh my god, I feel
no
sorry
way.
for DS Gaming. I feel sorry for them, but my god, between Jamaz and the Xavier, they could just do nothing in that moment.
That was such a great play coming out from him, of course, and he's still going to be inside the circle, I believe, just barely. So if he's got a lot of meds he can pick up from DS Gaming that have been relatively passive and tidy of this game, he could pull off a heal off from what we see of Mafia Ninja last game for DRS. I think that would be a great strat actually for him, because crossing that road is not going to be an easy thing to execute on his side. Xavier's still going to be trying to get more and more involved into the teams trying to rotate their way out of Pachinki, but that is not an easy thing to do. Actually, one of the hardest things to do itself, where Liquid and Luxy are using all of the utility that seems that was remaining after their fight with I8. And I think we're looking at maybe the last few seconds of BTR, because the moment those smokes are gone, it is also BTR that's about to be gone.
Luckily, next circle that shifted actually centralized up on top of the hill. Navi have got firm control of this phase. I was worried about their split as the last phase popped up, but they've joined up quite nicely and they are set up to claim this chicken dinner.
Peek out, he knows, he sees a rock, he sees also a little bit of a wall remaining. Luxy trying to move them out of those windows, stop the peeking coming out from Xavier. It's just really hard time for BTR, because also up north, we didn't talk about them too much, but Geek Fam are also just going to surround them. So BTR, they're going to have to take themselves 2v4 clutches, not just one, but actually 2 if they want to make it out alive. I think the Indonesian team has maybe found their match to go up against. Svaldus will get picked up to the northern eastern side, and Zeus are slowly but surely getting more and more involved in the circle.
I was worried about Blacklist maybe distracting themselves, but BTR as a duo got the knocks. They came in, and the Xavier, their passiveness has gone to bite them in the butt, and they've lost the majority of their players.
That was a double nade knock. They just got out of nowhere. BTR, you just turned that fight on its head in just seconds, and now Lamborghini started to rotate, and he's thinking, okay, that fight should be won. We're going to start going towards the circle. Unfortunately, they're going against you, my friend. So Lamborghini's going to have to remain as the sole player of the Xavier. That is an insane upset. Well played from the BTR guys. And now Na'Vi, they're going to be taking their own fight. You said it was a little bit risky. They took more control at center early on, but this might actually come in their favor. Now they know exactly which teams are pushing their way and how to fight them. DRS again completely overwhelmed by the Russian team as Na'Vi get themselves an extra 2 kills to their name, and now they got full control of the West with the likes of Geek Fam.
Na'Vi knew that the ERS technically had an advantage with that dip, so they had to be aggressive, they had to be proactive, and they took control, got the squad wipe. 8 teams left, 22 players. Geek Fam on towards the southwest. They've been quiet up until now, as have Blacklist International. They have an opportunity to take down the whole, and Na'Vi are being swiped left, right, and center.
That's the hard part, right? We're playing on a slope currently with some little divots and little ridge to play behind. But other than that, if you get spotted away, if a team has the high ground, they are mostly going to be winning that. Or even if they get close enough, just nade it, let the nade roll down, and you're going to be in trouble. That's what happened to Na'Vi, and now Blacklist are going to capitalize on that chance to get rid of them and be the kings of the north. The Lamborghini, heard BTR. Nades are going to be rolling up, and once again, that's another knock. He gets the intel, but no way. That is it, and the clutch comes out from Lamborghini. That's a double to his name, up to 6 kills so far, and he is able to keep the hopes alive of Xavier, able to remain on our top 5 in the overall leaderboards. Oh, Claire.
Oh, no.
Tixie, no way. Tixie spotted away, and he's also out of the game. That's going to be a 6th place for Na'Vi. 5 teams still in the running for our 3rd chicken dinner of the day. This is such an interesting one, but Zeus have suffered no casualties, still up as a 4-man. Get rid of Fnatic Zombies, the only other team on the east, and now they've got to cross over the road, but the man advantage is exactly what they need to overwhelm all the other teams in this game.
They mean the kings, the queens, the jacks, the tens, all the deck of cards controlling on the east Zeus have, but as they've gone across the road, they have a little bit of a ridge side that they can use to pick apart Blacklist, pick apart Geek Fam. Are they going too deep too quick? Icy is thrown down. Tyra has control of the box and he uses it to get the knock on Icy.
Okay, is there no nades available right now? One nade and that crate is gone. You will just get rid of Tyra and it'll be so easy. They're not doing it just yet, which I'm very surprised. Gonna try and either way a little bit closer, put that car in front of Icy to hopefully facilitate a res later on down the line. Lamborghini still eking his way closer. That's a nade, that's a good one, that's an absolute banger. Snipes is gone, and QB is also going to be entirely eliminated off the back of that nade. 7 kills so far. Lamborghini is just an absolute one-man army this game. What is going on? Oh wait, he's going to eke. It's right behind that smoke. He got spotted out for a split second, goes to the bloom shot, and he gets rid of Geek Fam! You clutch versus BTR, you clutch versus Geek Fam. Can he be stopped, Imperium? I don't think so.
He's a one-man wrecking machine, faster than the speed of light to respond to those shots. Very well played. But now we're left with our final 3 teams. Zeus, 8 kills, full squad up. Blacklist, they are a team that plays to survive. Well, they survived up until the top 3 with a full squad and 4 kills under their belt.
So the game plan for Lamborghini right now is hope that Zeus and also Blacklist International take a fight first. That is the only chance where Lamborghini could really, and I mean really, have a clear opportunity of winning that. Otherwise, you need to win a 1v8 basically, and I don't think that's something Lamborghini really wants to try and take. The odds don't really seem in his favor. But Zeus, knowing Zeus, whenever circle like this, they like to go a little bit wider, go for wider spread. If they do that, they should get a wind of information of where Lamborghini currently stands.
Tyra starts things off, catches out Godless, the kill's gonna come through, and that's actually sending Zeus closer to Lamborghini.
He's actually taking a shot. I thought he was going to take this one so slow, so passive, but he goes for the knock onto IC. He does get taken down by Zeal at the very end. Still, what a great attempt from the Xavier. Lamborghini, I'm tipping my hat to that. That was just such a good play in general from him from start to finish. But now, not only that, he created such a big opportunity for Blacklist because they were not involved in this fight. He got himself a kill, he got himself a knock, and because of that, Zeus are currently down to 2 players, and Blacklist has got such a huge line of sight, there is no escape for Zeus. That's still down first, and one player remaining is right on the left. That's going to be Abeles. Let's see if he can make the clutch play happen, but there's no way in hell that's going to be coming his way, as that's going to be the upset happening for Zeus. They seem like they were in control, but not enough apparently, as Blacklist International will be securing their very second chicken dinner over here in the World Invitational East.
Man, look. They may not play the most controlling, most aggressive early game, but you cannot deny that this team are so good when they're at the late game as a full squad. Yeah, okay, those circle shifts were wild, tempted towards Pachinki, but they knew based on their rotations from the north, sweeping in through Headshot Hills, controlling that compound early on. They were so confident of their surroundings and the little things like pushing up onto the last player of Navi, right? Recognizing that that was a spot to take. Pushing back Geek Fam, right? Helping themselves to just pick up kill after kill, and it wasn't super sparkly, but it was so presidentially just on point. And just knowing and playing within the safety of their ability is fantastic.
Blacklist International, and at some point in the mid-game, we both questioned it. We were like, it's a good compound. It's really strong to defend.
Yeah.
But you get literally, and we mean, you literally get no information on what's happening down south. Over that ridge, over that slope that we were talking about where the circle ended, you'll get no intel.
Yeah.
And though the information you do get is actually for the teams that position himself on top of the slope. The team that did that was actually going to be mainly Na'Vi. Then after that was Geek Fam, but actually really Lamborghini took care of himself. But that was their strong suit, and if the circle kept coming their way, any teams that would try and park on that slope would get taken down by Blacklist themselves. So sure, it was not great if the circle went down south, but in that scenario, in that current situation, that was the best compound because of the information coming your way, and they made literally the most out of it.
Absolutely spot on. Xavier got 20 points in that game. I do think they made the mistake by being too passive against BTR, which is the reason why they lost 2 players.
Yeah.
Right? If they had 3 players up in that late stage of the game, I reckon they could have not necessarily won, but they could have provided such a bigger dent to Blacklist International's late game. But because Lamborghini clutched up against Geek Fam and created a lot more controlling area for Blacklist to hold on to, it just made it easier for Blacklist to close out this game. So, you know, that domino effect did hurt Xavier in the long run, but Lamborghini himself, like, that clutch was insane.
It was such good execution. I mean, we saw a clutch play coming up for Martin yesterday. Today is Lamborghini day indeed. And we said it right. The fact he got himself a knock plus a kill confirm onto Zeus, that alerted Blacklist International, like, okay, this is the signal. Now we got to go and send everything we got into that finishing moment to take control. It's a 4v2. You should win that one. So exactly what they made it through. And it's, as we said, it's their second win. They started off yesterday with the very first win coming their way, and now they get their second. Blacklist International hitting the late game is a scary prospect to deal with. And if you do not prepare yourself properly for it, then unfortunately there's nothing you can really do. But with that said, that's going to be it for myself and Imperium for this game. We still got 2 games to go, so we'll be back soon. But before that, we'll head on over to the break and we'll send it over to the boys on the desk right after this.
COVID-19 vaccines are already helping millions of us get back to normality. But for many more, they are still out of reach. The vast majority of vaccines are going to wealthier countries, leaving the world's most vulnerable people behind. The COVAX initiative is working to right this wrong and ensure access to vaccines worldwide. This is not only the right thing to do, it is one of our best routes out of this global pandemic. As new variants continue to evolve, we know that as long as the virus is circulating somewhere, nowhere is safe. Gavi, through COVAX, is helping to provide vaccines at no cost to 92 lower-income countries. It has already delivered over 80 million vaccines worldwide. With your help, we can protect millions more people, ensure no one is left behind, and help bring an end to this pandemic.
I've got a difficult mission for you. Who's in? Close to 1 billion people from 92 of the world's poorest countries need to be vaccinated. You'll need to work closely with governments and health authorities, and it will take millions of volunteers, and it has to be cheap. This is a mission only a few organizations can handle. It is the world's biggest and fastest distribution of a vaccine ever. Equipment such as needles, canisters, visors, protective suits, and sanitizer need to be in place first. All of this has to be transported to the most inaccessible corners of the world. The vaccine has to be kept cold constantly. If not, it's all for nothing. And when the vaccine gets close, a population without mobile phones or internet needs to get the message. Thousands of health workers have to be trained to perform vital work. No one is safe until everyone is vaccinated, so we can't stop until that's a reality. But even though we're doing this because lives are on the line, this is real life and not a game. You don't get a new life if you fall, or if you drown trying to save lives. We have no lives to lose, but we're willing to risk a lot to vaccinate the whole world. As long as the virus exists, the whole world is in danger.
We've got the OnePlus 9 Pro, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, this display is just out of this world.
Insane. It's got 65 watts of charging power.
The 9 series is next level.
PUBG Mobile World Invitational is powered by Gamers Without Borders and is brought to you by OnePlus, the official smartphone provider, Nemo TV, the official streaming platform, and STC, the official playout sponsor. With that third match now done and out of the way, it means we're past the halfway point of our second day and almost at the halfway point of the entire event. 4 days in total, $3 million on the line, with some fantastic plays to be seen and have already been seen so far over the course of the matches we have had happen. I'm Jason Kaplan, still your host, and we have still two amazing analysts to help break down everything that's been happening in our games today, especially in that last one, as we'll be focusing on a couple of different things. We got Blank, we got Bled. They're both looking so happy to be here, so happy to be working with me. And why wouldn't you? I'm a phenomenal person, but not as phenomenal as we've seen Zeus playing today.
Yeah, Zeus looking good. They're looking really, really good indeed. Of course, they are much more comfortable on Erangel, coming in a very, very close second place. But Blacklist International, Blank, they're the sort of team who get the chicken dinners, but it's nothing else apart from that. They either get a chicken dinner, they top the table, or they come bottom last. I would like to see a little bit more consistency coming in from the Filipino side.
I think, yeah, you're very right. I think yesterday they had first place, fourth place, and second place. And then the rest of the games, 14th and a 13th. It's like, it's so inconsistent in that case. I mean, yesterday was good, though. Today's looking a little bit more shaky on that front, where it's even more on the case of it's either a chicken dinner or nothing. So they're kind of like the Southeast Asian Na'Vi really here. So quite interesting, but good stuff from them. 22 points total this game. We'll bump them up slightly up towards that third place. I know that's spoilers, guys, so don't worry about it. They're just a little bit behind Zeus, so I'm kind of giving you a hot and cold type of deal here. I'm trying to let you figure this out on your own, guys, at home. Don't worry about it. Geek Fam, on the other hand, they're still getting those points in, but at the moment, it's like it feels like those points just aren't rolling in fast enough.
Well, to be fair, they have a large gap between them and the number one place team at the moment, so at least they're still clawing away at that. And obviously with them getting 13 points, as we take a look at the second page, there's one team that's there out of all this getting only 3. So that gap technically, I think, is being closed in out by a couple of different teams out there. But again, we're seeing A1 off the back of 2 really strong games come out with 0. Reject only 2 points. We're starting to see, you know, a couple of teams kind of sitting on the second page a majority of the time here, Blend. It's unfortunate, but again, we're not quite halfway through the entire event just yet.
Yeah, we're not, but we are getting there, right? And that is where things start to get a little bit more tense, and maybe things get a little bit more nervous for a few of these teams. Teams like I8, A1, like you said, they had a great start here today. I was hoping they would kind of replicate what Valdez did yesterday and have a very solid showing throughout. But now with 2 maps remaining for day 2, after 2 games, it's going to be halfway through the halfway mark, and then the pressure really starts to mount. Your opportunities will dwindle, like we spoke about it yesterday as well. You know, it's not a league format; it's just 4 days of non-stop action. So there is a point in time where you decide to, you know, just look yourselves in the mirror and like, listen, guys, we need to really step it up. And for teams like Nasser, for example, I think they need to really step it up. They need to start taking the fights, because right now you have nothing to lose. You're at the bottom of the table. You've been struggling quite a bit. So take those fights, which they seem to be very unwilling to do.
Yeah, I think that's so strange as well, coming from that perspective that you just laid out for those there, Blair. Because the case of being right at the bottom, you are right, you got nothing to lose. And so they're playing like a team that's got 130 points and they're just trying to get towards the top side. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So if you're a Nasser Esports, just make it happen, take those shots. So what's the worst that can happen?
Well, I mean, either way, you're getting 15 grand towards charity, so it's going to be always a net positive in the end of things. But speaking of positives, let's talk about Lamborghini. This guy's been able to step up quite a bit here. We're going to take a look at his radar from our last match, and we obviously see kind of top of the table here quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think even though like 1,000 points of damage is very impressive, but for me what was impressive was how he was able to kind of turn the tide of that final battle. He did take out BTR earlier on, but then when he faced off, I think it was against Geek Fam, right? Geek Fam was in such a fantastic position. They had a man down, and it looked like they were in a good spot to kind of make things very uncomfortable for Blacklist and even for Zeus Esports. And then he lands a perfect nade, gets 2 kills, and then finishes out the final 2. But so basically a full team wipe coming in when he was all alone for his team. So I feel like he did a fantastic job. And even at the end, while he could have waited for Blacklist and Zeus to just go up against each other, and he just bides his time and just jumps in third parties his way into what could be a very improbable chicken dinner. Instead, it's like, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to take the fight. And he just finds Zeol, which actually allowed Blacklist to take the chicken dinner a little bit more comfortably than would have been the case if it had to be a 4v4 battle against Zeus Esports.
Okay, I mean, we've always got to see DX quite a bit yesterday, have some rises and some falls, had some consistencies and some inconsistencies. But we are seeing one team kind of be consistent, but not necessarily the way we want to see them be consistent. It's not just Vincere. Now, Blank, you talked about him at the start of the day yesterday, saying, take a little bit of time to get used to things. Obviously, the big dogs when it comes to the West, but when they play in the East, they have some learning to do. But this team has been kind of consistent, but not in what we were hoping for. They're not performing as well as we'd have hoped.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a little bit sad. I mean, today's been much better, though, to be honest with you. Let's say that, because obviously we've had a 4th place in our second game on Sandhawk into a 6th place from their Erangel just gone. And I think that looking at those 2 games in isolation, there were some very difficult rotations for them there. And they made some change-ups as well. We saw them drop George Paul first game. That didn't work out. This time they dropped down towards in military base. So, honestly, it's some really difficult paths they've had to take to the circle, and they've made it happen regardless. They do keep getting caught out, but what I am liking is, as you can see from the stats here, there's more stock in the point side and survival time overall over today. Yes, their damage has dwindled, but only by a tiny amount, but they're taking less fights, they're being less aggressive and more calculated with their actual engagements.
I remember yesterday you were talking about how Na'Vi maybe not used to getting in fights so early and skirmishes so early when they're playing the West. I think you were saying that teams kind of respect them quite a bit, and they have the freedom to just rotate and fight later on. What about Na'Vi now? Do you think they've gotten maybe used to the fighting, or do you think they're trying extra hard to avoid any early fights to make sure they make it later on, which is why we're seeing the travel time boost up?
Yeah, I think they are avoiding a lot of fights early on, and 100% in the West, you will see many teams just take the time. It almost feels like there's a gentleman's agreement going on over in the West side, where you've got teams that will rotate, have a good time, trying to get that phase freeze where action starts to take place. Usually we only see 1 to 2 kills in the first 7 minutes. Here in the East Conference, things are a lot more gun-ho, honestly. We're seeing a lot of fighting, a lot of shooting. It's really exciting, to say the least, but I don't think Na'Vi's used to it, which is why we're seeing them outside playing Edge much more frequently now.
Actually, one thing I just want to add on to that as well is how they landed in military base, like you pointed out, Blank, and they faced off against, I think it was I8 who lands there, right, all the time, and Na'Vi would have been aware if they'd done their homework that I8 are definitely going to be there. And I, for a moment, thought they might take the fight to I8, and I would potentially been caught unawares, but they didn't. Both the teams actually survived pretty late into the game as well. So just to add on to your point, it feels like they're just wary of taking these fights and just playing for the placement points, which I would like to see change up a little bit. A couple of high placings would be good for Na'Vi, because there's so much hype with this team coming into this tournament.
Speaking of changing things up and getting to high places, one team that's been not been able to replicate that from our first day, which we did wonder would they be able to, is Valdez Esports. As we can see here, their average stats from yesterday compared to today. Remember, they had 2K average damage on Erangel, and they played it 3 times yesterday. At the moment, they're sitting at about 500 average damage in 3 matches here. Blank, this is not the performance we were maybe hoping for them, but I think teams out there are a bit happy to see, making it more likely they can catch up to the -- 1 team.
I think what's most interesting for me here is the actual survival time. We're looking at about 20 minutes to the 25 from yesterday. That says to me is that they're trying to hang on to this lead they have and not go full guns a-blazing today and just try and keep that lead ahead. Though, I think yesterday, which was just absolutely obliterate the competition, is fine. Man's got Martin on the team. Just use Martin in concept. Just make it happen. Play how you played yesterday. Play to your strengths. Don't try any of this holding on to the top spot malarkey.
Top spot malarkey. I definitely want to see that. Again, it's for charity, right? You want to be able to try to get as much as possible. But let's see how they do progress further on. And you guys at home, we talked about some giveaways that were going on. We also do have some player cards that are happening within the game. You can actually get them and acquire them in-game as well. So make sure you guys check that out when they do come out soon. TM, don't know exactly the date, but you know what? When they do come out, you're not going to want to miss it, just like you're not going to want to miss this next match coming up here with match 4. So you two analysts, get out of here. Go take a quick break. I'll see you in the green room. We'll have a coffee. We'll have a tea. Who knows what we'll do there while we're watching these games and getting hyped up and excited, just like these two gentlemen here, Maxman and Imperium.
Thank you very much, Jason, as always. And, I hope I could get some more cards, but I've seen over a recent time my card luck has been pretty bad. So I don't know if I'm going to give it my shot again. But we'll see if I can get a few decent coming my way. But here we go, Imperium. We only got 1 Miramar day, so we got to make the most out of it and see which will be the teams to get back on top of the game.
Let's be fair, playing path-wise, it's the best playing path we've had so far in today's games. And for such a big map that is Miramar, it is really healthy for allowing the teams to drop and get to where they want to. DRS are going for a very early drop away to go towards Los Higos drop. That's interesting. I know BTR dropped in Porto Priso in yesterday's games, but unfortunately, it's been short-lived, as just been told there's going to be a rehost, which is a little bit of a feels bad, man.
We have so much wrangle every time we go on another map. We're like, what's happening? We're on another map right now. We got a rehost, man. We're not ready. But no, we're going to have a quick little rehost for this one, so that's going to be completely fine. We'll take a little bit more time. I mean, you know what? We only don't have one Miramar game a day, so we got to try and prepare properly and get that pressure up there and before we actually do dive onto the desert map of Miramar. But no, when we're talking about expectations and what we can hope to see some teams achieve, BTR has been a little bit up and down throughout the entirety of this tournament, and it's been said many times that BTR on Miramar, we do hope to see this team do relatively well. Is that something you think that they can do after what we saw from them yesterday, or are they maybe going to be, in the middle of the pack? Because they didn't go Picardo yesterday, which I found actually very surprising.
I did find that surprising too. Can do it? Of course they can do it, right? Yeah. Of course they can do it. It's BTR. Should they be doing it? Yes, they should be doing it. Will they do it? I don't know if they will, right? Because there's nothing really that has been shown to me that as a full team, they are ready to control these games. We've had Liquid step up to the plate. We've had tiny sparkles individually from a couple of other players. But when you're talking about that control in a game as a team, when you're talking about that ability to really grab the game by the horns and run through all the other teams, we have not seen that at all from BTR, and that's a bit surprising. But I'm also not surprised, because at the end of the day, the strength and ability from all the other teams across the world has improved so much.
Yeah, I mean, BTR, I think, is definitely one of the favorites coming into this game on Miramar, though there's another team that I'm hoping to see a lot of things come out from them on this game, is the Malaysian team of GeekFam. I said it yesterday, right? I'm slowly but surely becoming a huge fan of their macro gameplay.
Yeah.
Their rotations are like chef's kiss. They are so clean. And if they continue down that path, they had a really good shot yesterday, but the circle went against them and they went in favor of Valdus, and they were controlling that entire hilltop. If there is a situation where we do actually see the team get a decent circle shift later on down the line, I think GeekFam has a very clear shot at taking the win on this map.
Like, take the last game as an example. They were in that compound outside of Pachinki, right?
Yeah.
When I think it was phase 3 or phase 4 and they shifted towards Pachinki, did they go into the city? No, they went to the church, right? Because it gave them a lot of elevated information into the city without actually suffocating them into those buildings. Then when the next circle shifted up north, they went into the hillside, right? Yeah. So yes, their macro is absolutely fantastic. I do think they're missing something that is allowing them to, like, again, getting 1v3'd against Lamborghini. Yeah, maybe that's just one of those things that can happen, but they've also suffered faults or casualties and in situations where maybe they should have won it outside of the macro. So, just that little bit step up from GeekFam could definitely see them rise up to the leaderboard and contest for Valdus in first place.
I have the impression I've been throwing new teams, no, that I'm expecting to do well, and you've just been jumping on them and doing really good points, by the way. But is there another team other than GeekFam or BTR that you're maybe thinking like, oh, well, they can do really well? I think there's quite a few actually on the list.
There are quite a few. I'm going to throw a little bit of an oddball out there.
Oh, okay.
Yala, because I have been relatively impressed with how they've been playing in the first day and a half. But I also think that in day 2, they have been lost in the shuffle of other teams around them adapting a little bit quicker and playing a bit stronger as a team in terms of whether it's rotations, whether it is just